welcome to Step Into the Black Lights, Juneteenth episode. I'm here with co-host Gregory Welch, and I'm Mike Markman. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm all right, brother.
All right. So how do you feel today on the first day of Juneteenth being a national holiday?
Well, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. It just shows how, when it comes to us, even when they pass laws, it takes a while for everything. It's a lag time that's involved. And I'm just glad that Biden signed that bill for it to be declared a national holiday. That's a proud moment for us.
Right. You know, a lot of people didn't know much about Juneteenth. You know, I'm going to be honest. I myself, for years, didn't know about it growing up. And I was around a lot of conscious folks. And that wasn't on our mind. And actually, before we get into the history, I wanted to talk about maybe why that wasn't on our mind. And I think this is my opinion. Like, a lot of, like, me and you came from a generation of Black power. So
Yes.
we were talking more about our ancestors that built the pyramids, our ancestors that were Panthers, our ancestors that were warriors and freedom fighters. And slavery for a lot of us and for a lot of Black people is not something that we wanted to deal with, you know, because we didn't want to be associated with slavery as being seen as a slave. But that is our past. We're part of that history. And I think maybe the significance of this day is that it makes us reflect on what we went through. You know, just like Jews reflect on the Holocaust and that's their healing, we got to heal, and the world has to acknowledge what we went through and how we survived. What's your thought on that, bro?
Yeah, the way I feel about it, it acknowledges a lot of the African American warriors, because we were concerned with all the other warriors in the African diaspora. But we fought on this land to get to where we are.
That's right.
We can't put that to the side. Also, you know, we were slaves, but we didn't go down without a fight, and we didn't survive without a fight. We continue to fight. I think that's one of the big things that we have to acknowledge. And we went from fighting to gaining rights to actually changing the way that things are done all around the world. It's a lot of Americans, African Americans, that set that tone, because we're the ones going through it on the worst end.
That's right. That's right. And we paved the way for revolution and change all over the world when we modeled the way to do it. You know, going back to the history, like, I did a lot of reading this week about it, and, you know, I felt bad I didn't know so much about it. You know, we all knew that after slavery, slaves weren't really free. We knew that in the Black community. What I didn't know is that they didn't even know they were free for 2 years until the general went into Texas and said, y'all are free. and then, you know, there were certain laws that were passed to make sure it was enacted. So even though the Emancipation Proclamation came in 1863, it wasn't really put into place until 65. And even then, you know, the slaves had to celebrate on the down low. They did have parties and celebrations. They had it on the down low, because if they made too much of a ruckus, you know, they would be taken out, because the KKK started then. And, you know, they weren't getting their 40 acres and a mule and things that they deserved. But it's just interesting how they didn't even know that they were even free, you know.
You can attribute some of that to, you know, we call this the United States.
Right.
The States was united on everything else except for us being free.
Right.
some states took their time, and, you know, that's what that was all about. All the states didn't comply at the same time.
Right. And then another thing, you know, okay, Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, but why did he sign that document? Everyone gives him credit for freeing the slaves. But he was a politician, you know. If you check out the history, he needed the Union to get together. So right. that was a piece of that puzzle that they don't talk about. He didn't feel that African people were equal to white people. He even said it in documents. So this was just something for convenience at that time. And, sure. and there was a movement with abolitionists, and of course Frederick Douglass, and you know, Harriet, and everything that she did, and Sojourner Truth. And that movement played a part, but it wasn't like he was this great white god that came and said, we're gonna free these Black people. Because technically he didn't really free them. He just wanted his country back together. So
That's
that's
right.
part of it that's interesting. Is anything else that you wanted to put in about the history, that you found interesting? Or
Well, as you say, he did it for convenience, and it seems like it lingers on now. With all these laws and stuff that we have in place, it's always an exception for our people.
right.
You know, and we're always going to be the last for the law to sink in. And actually, to me, I don't even think it's about civil rights. I think it's about human rights.
Well, always can you define the difference between those two, because you always say that.
Well, human rights is just our rights to be treated as a human being. We don't ask anything more, anything less. But see, where the problem comes in, the civil with as far as the civil rights is to be treated right. I say, okay, I want to be treated right as a Black man. I want them to acknowledge me, and I feel I should have the same rights as others. But under the sun, as human beings, we're all, as they say, created equal.
So on that note, let me ask you another question. What significance will this holiday play for African American people, and what still needs to be accomplished that this hasn't done, but maybe could help, in your opinion?
Okay, it's a phrase I used. I think I posted on the site. I said, they gave us an inch, but we need a yard.
Right.
you know, it's a good point to start, to acknowledge, the all the atrocities and things that we've been through, and we weren't treated as humans. It's good to see that that's finally being acknowledged. Now, moving forward, I believe this acts as a tool for us to even bond together more as a people, just to see that it's being acknowledged on a certain level for all the work, all the hard work that we have put in collectively, and to show collectively we can get some things accomplished, and we can begin to move forward. At least the ball has a little nudge. This nudge, we need to just stay on top of it and keep the ball rolling.
Right. I read a quote today. It was like, Native American and Asian people don't ask for a holiday. They just ask for what they're owed. They demand what they're owed. And I hope this doesn't make us complacent. But one thing I think it can do is it can help educate a lot of people into what we went through. There's a movement right now in the educational system to implement African American history in a detailed way that's never been done before. For instance, there's a project called the 1619 Project.
Yeah.
And that was, I forgot the sister's name, but we put it up in the book list, and it was through the New York Times. It's a curriculum. It's very extensive. It explains and showcases all the atrocities we've been through, not only slavery, but the massacres, civil rights, and also our achievements.
Yes.
And it's a big pushback against it. There's something else called the Amistad Commission, which is in New Jersey, and they're doing the same kind of thing. But in the South and other places, there's a big pushback against that because they don't want the truth to be told. Because when you hear the truth, then you have to deal with the truth. So what is your opinion on that in terms of how this can help with education, and will it help?
It definitely will help as far as education, because some people just have blinders on. They're just victims, as I say, of the tail end, what they've been taught their whole life.
Right.
And if they weren't taught the knowledge, they weren't even able to make an educated assumption or guess, or even begin to understand what we've been through. They look at it as fairy tale, but once they put these things into reality, anybody that's humane or thinks humanely,
right,
would say, well, wow, I take a look at this is not fairy tale. I mean, it's something to really think about. We go through all these things now, and they speak about, sometimes they say Black Lives Matter, and then you would hear other people say all lives matter. And there's something that I have to say about that, because I viewed pictures of when you seen black families hung from trees,
Mm.
and in the background you see white families from little infants to grown men and women standing around watching, like if it's entertainment. And what I say to those people who say all lives matter, I say all lives mattered then too.
Right.
It shows that they didn't acknowledge us as being human beings. And that is what have to change.
Right. And I think the pain that we've kept in the community, we've kept to ourselves, and that wasn't good. That wasn't
Yes.
good for ourselves. That wasn't good for other communities too, because they didn't see the whole dynamics of us. We see the pain of Italian people and Irish people and Jewish people and Asian people and Native American people. We don't acknowledge the pain of African and African American people. They don't want to hear it. Some of our own folks don't want to hear about it. You hear them say, oh, you got to get over slavery, get over that. No, if we haven't really brought it to the table and dealt with it, then psychologically and mentally and physically, it's still affecting us, our DNA and our children. So we have to heal, you know.
That's
Now, one of the things I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or add to it, I think that this gives fuel to the fire for some of our causes. Of course, the Black Lives Matter movement. It does, the Black Power movement, Pan-African movement, the George Floyd bill that a lot of politicians are trying to enact to deal with racial injustice and police brutality. I think these are some things that we can get some movement on, and to stop voter suppression. You know, voter suppression is a form of racism, and you know when we bring it up, you know people say, "Oh, you're exaggerating. It's not true," but it stems right back from slavery. I mean, all of these things connect. I mean, what is your take on that? The connection between
correct. It does,
1619 and today.
yeah, it does stifle a lot of voices, and it takes it from the physical to the mental.
Right.
You know, they're not chaining people up anymore, but they are suppressing their vote and stifling their voices. And, and it goes from young to old on this one.
Right.
Do we have to put those laws in place that help this to change or protect those rights that we have? Because to all that we had to fight to gain, we must continue to fight to maintain.
That's
We
right.
cannot put it to the wayside.
And the fight is good in terms of holidays, but a holiday is not enough. We have to continue our own independent fight to
That's right.
independence. We have to build our own wealth. We have to get land. We have to regain the land that was never given to us. You know, the Native Americans got land for what was stolen from them, and we were promised 40 acres and a mule.
That's right.
Were you given 8 acre yet, brother? You have an 8? I don't want the mule, by the way.
Never naked that I didn't have to pay for.
I had a friend, an Italian friend that I worked with years ago in the school. He was a dean. He was a good guy, you know. He might not have been in the same political realm that I was in, but he asked me one day, he showed me an article in the Time magazine that said, should America apologize for slavery? He said, what do you think? I said, I don't want an apology. I want my 40 acres and a damn mule. They don't want apologies. You know, holidays are nice too, but that's not what we want. We want what we deserve. We were taken from the land, it was stolen from us, our culture, our lineage, we were used as labor, and we gave our best to other people. Now we want that back, and we want what was taken from us, and we want the same independence other people have, the same respect. So hopefully this might get people to wake up a little bit, but I don't think we can just take a deep breath and say, yeah, we got another holiday and we're good now. What do you think?
That's true. That is true. And I think this is a perfect time for us to be acknowledged as African Americans. I mean, Africans that are on this land, that built this land up, that contributed so much to this land and not being treated like secondhand citizens. You know, you would hear a lot of people say to us, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And you have people from other countries that use that phrase. But you know what I often say to people that say that? Why didn't you pull yourself up from your bootstraps where you were going through the problem and had to come here to not be able to sympathize with what we're going through on this land.
And it's true. You know, I'm watching a show called Outlander on Netflix, which is pretty interesting. It's about the Irish struggle. And it's very interesting how their struggle with England parallels our struggle. And some of them are sensitive to what we've gone through. I've talked to some, but some are not. So it's amazing how that hypocrisy could come through. To my Irish brothers and sisters that are down with us and understand the cause, like U2, the group U2 and others, I thank you. But for the ones that forget, we all struggle in life. We may have different degrees, but don't forget where you came from and how you're connected to the human condition. You know, so I like what you just said. I want to wrap this up. Before we wrap it up, I want to acknowledge our ancestors. So I'm gonna just from the beginning of I can think of up to now, acknowledge everybody who contributed to this day, but contributed to keeping us in the light.
Yes, in the light.
So I want to thank Sister Harriet Tubman, Sister Sojourner Truth, Fannie Lou Hamer, Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, Jesse Jackson, Barack Obama, Patrice Lumumba, Muhammad Ali. Jump in, take over, brother, while I think of some other ones.
Well, who can I say? I could even say people like Jim Brown. I can also say who else? Who else would I say?
W.E.B. Du Bois.
W.E.B. Du Bois.
Alex Haley.
Alex Haley.
Richard Wright, James Baldwin. All our great artists, Aaron Davis, Louis Armstrong. I mean, they kept the culture and the spirit alive, you know.
James Brown.
James Brown. Say it out loud, my brother.
Yes, indeed.
James Brown. I mean, there's so many. And I know we're forgetting a lot of great people, man, but there's just so many, you know, so many. Jackie Robinson. Thank you for what you did, for the struggle that you bestowed on us. Hey, I'm thanking John Brown, our white brother.
Yes, John
Brown. Our cause. Nat Turner. We thanking Nat Turner. We're thanking Toussaint Louverture, even though he was in Haiti. We heard about what you did in America, and Nat heard about it too. Anybody else before we close that we might have missed, man? We want to thank on this day. We want to give thanks to President Biden for pushing through, and all the people who pushed for this initiative to make it happen. Do we get everybody we could think of? I know we missed some, but anybody else you could think of?
I want to mention that sister too from Atlanta. That was
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams.
Thank you, Stacey. Huey Newton, the Black Panther Party.
That's right. Black Panther Party.
Black Panther Party. The December 12th movement. Our brother who brought us here together today, who started Nubian Nation, Jeffrey Batts. Thank you, Jeff.
Jeffrey Kazembe Batts.
Jeffrey Kazembe Batts. Our brother Charles Barron, Assemblyman Charles Barron. Our brother Kaba Kamene. Brother Sledge. What's his name? Can you say his name again?
Michael
Sledge. And all the brothers and sisters that brought, all our mothers and fathers who worked hard every day and endured racism and weren't treated with respect. And are not here today to see this. We acknowledge you and we thank you for staying in the light with us. And we just want to say before we go, thank you for joining us in the light. Look for our YouTube channel coming. We have the anniversary of this page, and this movement started in July. You're going to see a YouTube page then. We also have apparel that will be coming out. The money that we make from the products we create go back into the community. So we thank you for your support. Anything you wanted to close with?
Yeah, there'll be a lot more to come, and just stay with us. And this time around, we're going to be asking for a lot more input, a lot more interaction between our followers. And as always, I urge you to stay in the light.
Stay in the light. Thank you for being with us. Stay blessed.
All right.